LILKIRBS is one of, if not the biggest Super Mario Maker 2 YouTuber. Holding over 500,000 subscribers, he's known for his skilled gameplay and unique narration style. I myself am also fairly good at Mario Maker, so I wanted to see if I had what it took to beat LILKIRBS. LILKIRBS' hardest clear is a level called Blades of Forsaken by Mermelli, which is an 11.0 in Team Shell. The level is only 17 seconds long, but is filled with high input and precise juggles. It took LILKIRBS 45 hours to beat, meaning that if I wanted to beat LILKIRBS, I would have to spend less than that time. I started by rebuilding the level in my editor, so I could practice the level easier. Then, I began practicing with learning the end of the level so I'd be more consistent with the later setups. The last trick in the level didn't take that long to figure out. There's some awkwardness with the spacing, but otherwise, it's pretty consistent. Next was the fast juggle before it, the pre-9. I had heard a lot of people call this part the hardest trick of the level, so I was worried. The trick is essentially a triple juggle, but with all controlled jumps, and it looked really hard. However, I was surprised to get it pretty quickly and with really high consistency. Soon, I got this run from the pre-9 to the end, which made me confident that I would be able to beat the level quickly. The next section, however, was a different story. As soon as I started to learn it, I realized I had severely underestimated the difficulty of this part. You need to do a precise control jump to have this shell land on this muncher so you can grab it later for a shell jump. But you also need to hit this dry bone to the right and this shell to the left to have a small enough bounce to land in the dry bone, but somehow not have these shells collide. And then after all that, you still need to have enough momentum to land on this shell without killing it with the shell you're holding. This section was by far the hardest part in the entire level. I was still able to get a run from this part to the end, and now I was ready to attempt the level. I quickly got used to the first section and began making progress. My first big run was a run to the end of the hard part, where I almost made it. Soon after, I would get this run, where my shell throw was too high to hit this block, and I pathetically died. At this point, I could already smell the clear. The parts afterward weren't too hard, and I knew if I could just get a run past the hard part, I would have a chance. My next progress would end up dying on the pre-9, but towards the end of it at least. I would die like this a couple more times before getting this run, where my spring up throw barely missed this block so I couldn't get the dry bone to do the end trick. At this point, I was in the end game. Only a couple of seconds stood between me and the end of this level. After grinding a bit more, I managed to get my first final section run, which died because I threw the POW too late. I continued grinding. So far, I was still struggling on the second section, but I found a lot of consistency in the first one. Then, this run happened. I had beaten the level. I had done everything right, except I had not gotten the last key. The thwomp had barely not hit my POW in the last trick, and I couldn't get through the final key door. This was a pretty awful death. A little while later, I had yet another final section death, dying in a similar way to the first one. I kept grinding, until finally, I got my run. I had beaten Blades of Forsaken. After 4 deaths to the final section and 10.5 hours of grinding, I had done it, and I beat LILKIRBS too, completing the level over 4 times faster. My completion run was honestly not that great in terms of how well I did the tricks. For example, if you look at how I did the final section, this bout barely hits the side of a spring, and then I nearly hit the thwomp. How did I not die here? I'm literally a pixel away. Nevertheless, I'm glad I didn't fall to the thwomp, and I really enjoyed playing this level. If you want to see me beat more hard levels, subscribe, and I'll probably post again in like a month or 2.